guys, so welcome to my labor and delivery video. Depending on how long this video is, I might split it up into two videos. I'm going to do like part one, which is going to be my early labor, and then part two, which is like active labor and then delivery. So, and I'm going to be also including some video clips and some pictures that we took in hospital in kind of randomly, as well as I tell my story. So here we go. I started labor on Friday, December 20th, which was the night before my due date, and I was super excited. I was at my in-laws for dinner, and my sister-in-law was in town with her two little kids who were over there visiting, and I'm just sitting on the couch and kind of eating dinner, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm having a lot of Braxton Hicks, but I wasn't like timing them or anything. I was just kind of just noticing, I guess, that I was starting to get some contractions, which I didn't really think anything of it because I had been having Braxton Hicks this whole time. And my little 3-year-old niece was sitting next to me on the couch when we were playing with something, and she has like this little necklace, and she likes to say that her pixie dust is in it. So she was like pointing to her necklace and then pointing at my belly, and she was like, "Pixie dust to the baby." I don't know, it was like super, super cute, and everyone was like laughing because she was being super cute, and she was giving pixie dust to the baby, and we were all saying, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be hilarious if you went into labor, and like, you know, my little niece's pixie dust like made me go into labor, so that was really cute. So we left there at like maybe around 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and we went to Walmart to get some groceries. And I was walking around Walmart, and I noticed, I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of uncomfortable. Like my back was kind of aching a little bit, and I was just having some like uncomfortable Braxton Hicks. I'm like, this is interesting. So I kind of just noticed that, and then we came home, and I'm just laying on the couch and resting, and that's when I really started to think I might be in labor, because my back was starting to hurt with each of my Braxton Hicks contractions, and then I started kind of timing them. And they were really anywhere between like 7 to 9 minutes apart, and I got really excited. I ended up calling my mom, and I'm like, things might be happening tonight, so I'll like let you know if we go to the hospital or whatever. Just wanted to kind of give you a heads up that things might be happening. So I was really excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to have the baby on my due date on the next day. I was just really excited. So I tried to go to sleep. Obviously, like, it was really hard. My contractions were still like 7, 8 minutes apart, but when I went to bed, they kind of dropped off a little bit. Like, they were maybe like 10 minutes apart. Even though I was super excited, I kind of forced myself to try to get some sleep because I knew that I should sleep as much as I could. So I ended up falling asleep maybe around like 2 in the morning, and then woke up again at like 7:30 or 8 with more contractions. So I got a couple hours of sleep, but it really wasn't all that great. So I got up and I walked around. I thought maybe my contractions would pick up a little bit with me kind of getting out of bed and walking around. No. I ended up having contractions that were 7 to like 11 minutes apart the entire day on Saturday the 21st, which was my due date. We tried everything. I was bouncing on the yoga ball. We tried taking a walk around the block. I even went over to my parents' house and started walking on the treadmill, just on like #1 speed, just like a really, really minor walking pace to kind of try to get things moving. At this point, I was uncomfortable. They were kind of intensifying a little bit, but I felt like I just wasn't progressing with the timing, and it was really frustrating, really frustrating. Because I just wanted things to happen, and I knew things were starting. It was just frustrating that things just weren't progressing. I can't even remember. I think it was around like 6 o'clock in the evening. I felt like they were intensifying and the contractions were getting a little bit closer together. So I'm like, well, maybe let's just go into the women's hospital to kind of get checked out. Oh, I did end up calling like the nurse, like the triage nurse, and she told me to come in because I was having significant back pain. That kind of started intensifying that Saturday afternoon with the contractions. That's what I noticed the most that was intensifying, was how uncomfortable my back was. So the nurse on call, or the triage nurse, told me that I should go in and get checked out because of my intense labor back pain. Sometimes, like with back labor, your labor progresses differently than if you have like regular abdominal contractions. I'm not sure. So we ended up going into the women's hospital, to the triage, to get checked out. And I was just like praying and hoping. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really hope I'm more than 1 centimeter dilated, because at my appointment that previous Thursday, I was only 1 centimeter dilated, and that's when I had the membrane sweep. So I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I really hope I'm like further along than 1 centimeter, and I hope that they keep me, because I really don't want to be sent home. That sucks. I've already done that before, and I don't want to do that again. So I go there, and I get checked out, and what do you know, I was 1 centimeter dilated. I was so upset. I started crying. I'm like, I cannot believe all these contractions that had been going on for hours for the previous day did not do anything, and I was not progressing. So they said, well, let's just have you get up and walk around and see if that helps things. So I ended up staying for maybe about like 45 minutes, and I walked around, and they kind of gave me some time, and then they ended up checking me again, and I was still only 1 centimeter. And the doctor kind of gave me 2 options. She's like, well, we can keep you overnight and see if your labor progresses, but then if you don't go into labor, we'll have to induce you the following day. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, I do not want to be induced any sooner than my induction date that was scheduled for the 30th. I'm like, I don't want to be induced. I'll just go home and kind of just rest, I guess. And she did tell me in early labor, you should be resting as much as possible and not trying to be active and walking around like what I thought. So I went home. I was really, really upset. I was upset and crying. I'm like, I'm never going to go into labor. I'm just going to have contractions forever that aren't doing anything. That was frustrating. So we ended up coming home, and I watched a movie, and then I went to bed, but I did not sleep at all. My contractions when I went to bed, I think were still 7 to 9 minutes apart, but they definitely intensified that night. At about 1 a.m., they started really, really intensifying and getting closer together. And that's when I kind of noticed, I'm like, okay, I really think that I'm in, like, active labor. So at about 3:30 in the morning, I ended up waking up my husband, not on purpose. I was just, like, having really frequent contractions, and I was, like, moaning through them and really, really uncomfortable. That's what the doctor told me when I went in that night, to come in when I couldn't really talk to the pain, and when it was really, really, really uncomfortable, and really when I couldn't really walk through them. So I kind of kept that like in the back of my mind to know when to go into the hospital the second time. So at about 3:30, I ended up waking up my husband because I was moaning with each contraction, and they were like really, really uncomfortable. So we both kind of got up. We're like, okay, this is really happening. We both kind of got up and got ready, hung out a little bit, and then about 5 in the morning, we went into the hospital. And I'm just hoping, I'm like, okay, this has to be real. They're like 5 minutes apart, and they are hurting really badly that I have to like moan through them to get through the contractions. So we get to the hospital, and it was really funny because the same nurse was still there from the previous night. I think she worked like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So she was still there. She's like, oh my gosh, you're back. Let's see how far you are, and hopefully you've progressed. And what do you know? I had progressed to about 2.5 to 3 centimeters, she said, and I was so excited. I was like, yay, finally. She's like, well, we're going to keep you, and we're going to admit you now. So that is my part 1 of my labor story. So let's go on to part 2.